For executive
Start the meeting.
Start the meeting.
Right. Thank you, Elijah. All right. Thank you, and welcome to tonight's school board meeting. Could we rise for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, roll call, please.
Absolutely. Mrs. Beachy.
Here.
Mrs. Walker.
Here.
Mrs. Skidrick.
Here.
Mr. Bushy.
Here.
Dr. Creighton.
Here.
Mr. Gerhard. Here. Mr. Linder.
Here.
Mr. Sensenig.
Here.
Mr. Claire.
Here.
All 9 members present.
Thank you. The March 25th, 2024 school board meeting is open to the public and is also being streamed virtually. I would like to announce an executive session was held on March 25th tonight to discuss personnel matters. I need a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll make them.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay. I need an approval for the February 26th, 2024 school board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Get my papers apart here. Dr. Axe.
All right, welcome everybody. Tonight we have our learners of the month. And from Barron Elementary, Juliana Kirkpatrick, grade 3, Miss Seifert. Come on up.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, so the third grade team at Barron Elementary has nominated Juliana Kirkpatrick as our learner of the month. It is my pleasure and honor to be here tonight to speak on her behalf. Juliana is a passionate, motivated, and respectful learner who exceeds the necessary qualities of a difference maker. She is simply a bundle of joy in the classroom, and she always tries her best and consistently has a positive mindset, even those times when she really doesn't want to do something. With these qualities in mind, Juliana also demonstrates her exceptional leadership characteristics, proving to be a role model for her classmates. And I can always count on Juliana to encourage those around her and to help them when they are struggling. Her personality naturally guides her to take control and be the voice of her and her classmates. She is never afraid to question something that doesn't make sense, which shows how responsible she is for her own learning. Beyond academics, Juliana has a great relationship with her peers. Her kindness, honesty, and excitement brings the class together. She is a spark that is simply contagious and brightens everyone around her. It is easy to see that Juliana understands what it means to be a true friend and respect others. I am not the only person in the building who appreciates this outstanding learner. Juliana's talents and amazing personalities are noticed by all of her teachers and staff members within Barron Elementary. We are very excited to nominate Juliana as our student of the month, and we are excited to see where she goes.
All right, next up, Doe Run Elementary, Elijah Benner, grade 3, Mrs. Kime.
That's how I feel. You want to say hello? Hi. Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Doe Run's Learner of the Month, Eli Benner. Eli is very excited and maybe a little bit nervous to be here this evening, but he is always usually all smiles. Are you still smiling? Okay. When I received the email that it was third grade's turn to select a student of the month, my eyes immediately scanned my class list hanging in front of my computer. With Eli's name being third on my list, I paused right away and I thought, yes, Eli is a definite forerunner for this recognition. I continued down my list, giving consideration to a number of others as well. I continued on with my afternoon schoolwork list, but my mind kept coming back to Eli. The more and more thought I gave to this, the more I realized how much Eli had grown, both academically and socially, since the start of the school year. I ran his name by Mrs. Mack, who has Eli for social studies, and also Miss Katie, my high school intern, who has been with us every single afternoon since the first day of school. They both enthusiastically agreed, mentioning the very same growth as well. Today, Eli is a very enthusiastic learner with a sense of confidence that he did not have initially. We see a twinkle in his eye as he now takes an active role in setting his own goals. Achieving these goals is now his passion. As an example, when he found out just before lunchtime this past Friday, when he found out that our spring party was going to replace math at the end of the day, he got a little nervous. He began to contemplate just how he was going to complete his exit slip, get it scored, and get his proof uploaded to Schoology so that he could continue to work on his math, which is optional, over the weekend. Well, where there's a will, there's a way. During the final 10 minutes of the party, when it was time to enjoy the provided snack, he multitasked. Of course he did. He excitedly handed me his exit slip and asked me if I could please correct it now. Of course I did. He passed. He got his skill badge. He ran to the iPad station where he had already turned in his iPad for the weekend. He fired it back up. He took his needed photos to upload and quickly grabbed what he needed to start his math requirement from home. It is this drive that makes Eli a standout in my mind. I'd like to take a few minutes to share some highlights of a little interview I conducted with Eli when he ate lunch with me on Friday. So I will read my question and I will read your answers. I'm not going to make you do that. Okay. I asked him, I said, what does it mean to you to be selected as Doe Run's Learner of the Month? And he said, well, when Mr. Painter came into the classroom and made the announcement, I was very surprised. I didn't expect it at all. But then I realized when you mentioned my huge improvements that I could see my own improvements in math and reading and even my writing. I quickly became very proud. What do you like most about third grade? Well, I've moved up 2 whole levels in reading just this year. I now love to read. We have so many books in the classroom. They're everywhere. That's what happens when you teach as long as me. I have so many options. I always know what book I'm going to read next before I finish the one that I'm reading, and that's pretty cool. I also love math. I didn't always love math, but I really love to learn at my own pace. I have no worries about trying to keep up. I'm really proud of how far I'm getting with my math skills. It's fun now. I said, what are your favorite hobbies outside of school? He said, easily, I have 2 that I can think of right away. First, I love building things with clay. I sculpt and I bake each one that I make. Last week, I made an avocado family. I really want to see that. I have it in my room on a shelf. I also love to swim. My parents tell me that I first started to swim when I was 2 years old. I now swim on 2 teams, a summer team and a winter team. I go to competitions. I made it to champions and leagues. It is a real big challenge for me. I get really nervous when I am competing in a meet. I get that roller coaster feeling in my stomach. I love that. But it vanishes as soon as I get in the water. My best strokes are freestyle and definitely my backstroke. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay, I forgot to write that down. I was doing that one from memory. I said, who is your hero or somebody that you look up to? JJ. I look up to my older sister, JJ. She is 16 years old. She's a good older sister. We have a lot in common. The only thing we fight over is the cat. What do you think you want to be when you grow up? He said, well, he didn't say. After a moment of quiet thinking, which I knew he was really contemplating, he said, I think I want to be a teacher. I also want to do art. Maybe I could be an art teacher. Later, as Eli was literally dismissing from my classroom at the end of the day, walking down the hallway, he yelled back over his shoulder, erase that part about the art teacher. I want to think about it and let you know on Monday. So I asked you today, I said, so did you think about it? What's your decision? Did you come up with something else? And you said, no, I want to be an art teacher. Do you have any idea? I love this. Do you have any idea where you might want to go to college? I'm young now, so I think I want to go to college, a college that is close to home because I will miss my parents. Oh, it gets better. But I'm sure as I get older, I'll get over that phase. And I might want to go farther away. Well, or maybe in the middle. Yeah, probably in the middle, not too close, but not too far. So Eli, this wraps up the presentation. It wasn't so bad, was it? I just want to end by telling you how proud I am of you, and I truly hope that this is just the beginning of many, many more accomplishments. Congratulations.
All right, next up from the middle school, Abigail Stewart, grade 6, Mrs. Farmer.
Hi, I'm Erin Farmer, and this is Abby Stewart. She is a 6th grade learner who also participates in band and is active in extra things at school, such as the Pollinator Garden and Omega. Abby works extremely hard during her enrichment time in the Omega room, and she always has a smile when coming and going. She thrives when it comes to a challenge. She chips away at a skill or concept, even if on her own time, until she's figured it out. Abby doesn't give up. She was once introduced to a 2-step equations as an extension activity during her lab enrichment group. By the end of the session, she hadn't quite figured out the concept yet, so Abby chose to take those equations with her, work on them voluntarily during her own time, and then return the next day for Mr. Clausen to check the work. He looked at the equations and said, Abby, you got them correct, and then waited until she left, and he proceeded to ask an 8th grade algebra expert if those extremely challenging equations really were correct. They were, the 8th grader assured him. Abby has a love of learning that is a great example to everyone. Abby can work with anyone when participating in group work. While she often has the correct answers and some valuable ideas, she is always willing to hear out her fellow group members during collaborative activities. She is kind to everyone, always makes good choices. She's the leader among her peers, especially during science experiments and collaborative ELA projects. She excels in the STEM classroom. She loves being given a problem and time to explore one or more solutions. She takes time to think critically through situations and also shares her thoughts with others. She helps bring others up to her level with both intelligence and behavior. She is also an above average communicator. She communicates at a high level in both written and verbal ways. Her creativity is evident in her writing. She entered a freedom essay contest and beautifully expressed her thoughts and ideas of what freedom means to her. Mrs. Bleacher, her ELA teacher, has enjoyed reading all types of her writing, from unique vocabulary word sentences to a characterization analysis. She also created an animated 1940s radio broadcast showcasing her not always seen outspoken and jovial side to her personality. Abby is a great candidate to be recognized this evening. Don't worry. Don't worry. And she deserves to be honored here tonight. Recently, Abby had written a kind of a silly poem about herself, and I said, I would like to end with that poem. And she's like, Mrs. Farmer, please do not end with that poem. And I said, Abby, I will not end with that poem if you do not want me to. But if you would be interested in hearing the poem, you're just going to have to ask her. But Abby, we think you are awesome. Mr. and Mrs. Stewart, thank you for raising such great kids. And you are a great learner in class, and you are a friend to others, and she is a perfect choice for this recognition.
All right, from the high school, Caleb Bauer, grade 11, Mr. Palmiero. Caleb, and I don't think our CTC learner of the month is able to make it tonight.
Good evening, board members, faculty, guardians, and other learners of the month here tonight. I'm happy and super proud to be presenting March's Learner of the Month, Caleb Bauer, who is more than deserving for this recognition. I've had the pleasure of having Caleb as a student of mine in AP Chem. I believe Caleb resembles this school district very well. He accepts challenges whenever there is one in front of him. The biggest challenge for him being AP Chemistry, given the fact that he has not taken regular chem at all. He overcame and conquered, and he's still conquering today. He shows that he can juggle the work with extracurricular activities like track, which is why he is not here today, and his job outside of school. He also volunteered at Elementary Science Night, which the science department runs every year, where he actually was the one demonstrating and actually being the teacher for the elementary kids, something that he has never done before. He shows incredible engagement in the classroom as well. I never have a problem with late work or little effort being put into any assignment. He takes advantage of any learning opportunity he has. His classroom attitude will take him a long way into the next level of education. He plans on becoming an engineer, and I have all the faith in him for becoming just that. Congratulations, Caleb.
And from the Mountjoy CTC, Kayla Galbraith, grade 11, Mr. White's.
Good evening, everyone. For a while there, I think we were going on a string of 3 in a row. Every month we had a CTC learner and we had to take a little bit of a break. But Kayla Galbraith was nominated over at Mountjoy, specifically Leslie Schlosser, who's one of the school counselors over there, recommended her. Just Kayla's go-getter attitude, and then helped out on a couple of special projects that they had. Kayla's an individual. She has a unique relationship with myself. She's very strict in making sure that she says, "Good morning, Mr. Weitzel," and then walks on by. So I always get a good morning from Kayla, but we wanted to recognize her. Kayla's in the Introduction to Construction program over at the Mountjoy CTC. So she'll be awarded or recognized, excuse me, at the CTC board meeting this Thursday down at Blow Street. But we wanted to recognize and congratulate Kayla being an awesome Manheim Central representation at CTC. Thank you.
Okay, I think we all should give a round of applause to all the parents who have done such a nice job in raising their kids. Now if you were a learner of the month and if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you may, but I think you probably want to get out some other stuff. So you're all excused. If you go out here, they'll be taking a picture of you. That kind of empties out the room. Okay, the public comments. The board encourages citizens of the district to come before the board to present their petitions, inquiries, or other communications of interest. The board invites public citizens of the district comment on any topic that is within the board's jurisdiction. As outlined in Board Policy 903, the board requires that public participants be residents or taxpayers of the district. Anyone wishing to address the board, public comment will need to be in person. If you wish to speak to the board, please sign in prior to the meeting. Public participation in the meeting is the prerogative of the board president, who will establish the amount of time allowed for speaking. Out of respect for time, comments should be limited to under 3 minutes. For your convenience, a timer will be visible for your reference up here, and we will let you know when there's 2.5 minutes so you can wrap things up. Personnel and/or student discipline issues are inappropriate topics for public comment and should not be addressed to the Board of Education. Please make an appointment with the superintendent to discuss these issues. And I understand we have some people that want to speak.
Sharon might be up there.
Good evening, I am a mom to Samantha Parks, graduate of 2023 Next Step program. She was offered a job at the high school. So I'm here as far as concerns and frustrations over this. I have a full notebook of why she shouldn't want to work here, but her heart is here. Through all her adversity, her heart is at Manheim. That says a lot for her. Next Step is truly a diamond in the rough. Next Step actually was the first time Sammy was treated like a potential employee, looked at like an individual who was worth the work to give her the opportunity. She volunteered 2022 with Mrs. Hatfield, did 2 internships with Mrs. Heaston and Mrs. Wenzel. Was offered a job, but it's an everyday or never know what day. It could be, they contacted her a lot at night for the next day. She doesn't drive, so I had to find work or find a driver, which is not an easy, so she walks. She could walk to the high school, she could walk here. They came back with a 9 to 2 at the high school, perfect. Did the interview, Mrs. Heaston said she did amazing. That's the last we heard of from anybody. When do we start? When do we do this? What happens? She finally got a call from them, interview was done, which we thought was already done. Asked, can she apply? And she said yes, but if someone more qualified applies, they will get the job. 2 jobs came up. One was the kitchen where Sammy actually interned. The last day she worked was January 12th. I contacted OVR, who's under her care, or she's under their care. What do we do? How do we do this? There were some concerns. They said that she was leaving early or scheduled and didn't show up. Then at the meeting, they said that she would leave early and wasn't capable of the job. I don't understand why in April she was capable. I said, can we give her 3 months? Take her, let OVR put a job trainer in there to help her do what you need her to do. No, we can't do that. We treat all the employees the same. But you're asking me for an accommodations form. What's the difference? Tammy's response was, I guess I did all that work for nothing. She was working at the internship here at school. She also worked acres in the evening. She was doing both. I just think that shows something for her. I do believe Sammy would be a good, unique addition to the kitchen team. In almost 3 years of Luther Acres, she hasn't called off. She is dependable, even though a bit different. So I just would appreciate just any information, because what we were told is we can't do the 3 months because it takes what we were told is it takes too much work to call her in. It's easier to work short. I'm frustrated with that. But thank you for listening. Again, I think Sammy would be an awesome employee. Given the chance of even 3 months with a job trainer through OBR, how can we help her, help you guys? Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have somebody else?
Hi, I'm Dave Graff. I'm a parent of Ava. We just wrapped up the Sound of Music this weekend. If you had a chance to take it in, it was a great show. Everyone enjoyed it. It's a real good representation of the program that you have here. And it became a little bit aware that the director was leaving, Ms. Kroll, and that there's a position open to take over the directorship. And I'm here to basically just weigh in on behalf of my daughter and myself and some others, that we would really appreciate a hard look at the next director's position. I believe it's being selected for Mr. Shull. Nothing against Tyler. I've known Tyler since he was in grade school here. But Mrs. Deppin brings a depth to that program that you saw over the weekend and that you witnessed, and it's an established program with a lot of talent and resources. Her credentials are excellent and her experience level is excellent. And she's put the time in to deserve that position. Mr. Shaw can grow into that position. Give him the time to grow into that position. Let him be the shadow and learn a little more before you give him that. It's weird to see someone go right to the top without the time being put in. I want to teach that to the kids as well. So I'm hoping that you'll consider that and look at what you're getting, and what you could grow, and what you already have, and what you're enjoying. And let one mentor the other. Don't let one leapfrog the other. That's kind of my point. I had a chance to participate in the program. I was the orchestra pit musician, and I saw the energy, and I saw the dynamics, and I saw everything that everybody did in that show. What I did not see is the person that's being asked to take over the director position. Didn't volunteer, wasn't there. Why not? So consider that when you make your choices. You want the rest of it?
Hi, I'm Ava and I played Maria over the weekend. So the program for me has been a huge part of my high school career and is making me really sad to see the people that have made it so special for me leave. And I, again, have nothing against Tyler, Mr. Shaw, sorry. But Cammie has made the program what it is. She has wonderful connections and makes makes our productions just beautiful and professional, and has pushed me to be a great performer and a great person, and she's taught me so much. And I am just really sad to see this, like see her not be able to grow in this program. And it's just a huge loss to our kids to have her not be able to step into the next position. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done? All right, very good. And we're gonna go into personnel. I'd like to go from 7A through F like in Frank. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
I second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Now we're gonna take,
Maybe we should just maybe go back and recognize Katz, 25 years of service.
absolutely, sorry about that.
I don't know if she's here, just to recognize.
I even-
That's
I didn't
25
think- I
years of
didn't know.
service. Thank you.
You bet. 25 years of the learning support. Our educator is super. All right, now, we're gonna take this next one separate. We're gonna take 7G, which is transfers of administrative staff. Mike Pyle going from Principal Barron to the principal of the middle school. And Dr. Kimberly Morello going from the assistant principal in the Doe Run, principal of Barron Elementary. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? So moved? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Mike and Kim? Mike, you're going back to where the school you started.
Circle, yes.
Yeah. All right.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you, the school board. Thank you, Dr. Axe, Dr. Flannery. Hopefully, you have confidence that I can do well in this position. I'm very excited for this next. So I'm very excited. We'll help with the transition with Dr. Maroli. We also have big shoes to fill with Dr. Nemeth, and we're working together in this moment right now. So thank you.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to work at Barron and excited to work with Mike in this transition. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, I think we can take 7H and I.
I'll make a motion.
Motion second.
Second.
Second. Questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Superintendent's report. Dr. X.
Thank you, Mr. Claire. A lot going on here in the spring. As many of you in the public have probably seen, the field project, the baseball field is complete. They have already played games on it. A lot of people, again, I said this last time, but have asked about the lights. The lights are not connected yet. Once they are, we will probably have an evening game or two if we get them connected this season. We also have gotten some questions with the public use of the track because there's a lot of construction back there. So until that's cleaned up, we're going to have that open just for our athletes right now. But we understand and appreciate that people like to use it, and we will get that open as soon as possible. But we just can't make any promises as the contractors are cleaning up back there. If you didn't see in the news, we were in the news for our kindergarten registration, which was really cool. They featured our STEM kits and did some interviews with some of our families. And just a reminder to the public, if you have not registered your kindergartner yet, coming into the next school year, registration is now completely open. So you can call in and make arrangements anytime to register your upcoming kindergartner. Some of us went to the Senator Almond's breakfast for school administrators this past week. And a lot of the usual things were talked about: cyber schools, mandates, technology, budgets, all of those sorts of things were covered. And I believe that we're going to be reaching back out to have a chance to meet with him within our district as well. And lastly, I just want to thank everybody. Last week was 2 years already for me being here with this team, and it's been amazing. I love the direction that we're going. I appreciate this community and the kids, and just the energy is outstanding. So sometimes I can't believe it's 2 years, and sometimes it feels like a little bit longer, but overall it's been tremendous. So I wanted to thank you. And also I wanted to let the board know that Catherine was not available tonight. So we'll make sure we have more of a robust report for the board next time. Moving on to the IU budget, Mr. Howitt.
So basically,
While he's doing that, the show was really good, by the way. Thank you.
Basically, if you got the packet from the intermediate unit, just explain the two separate budgets. There's an instructional media services budget, and they provide mail service, tech items, subscriptions to various media. That is a budget that we contribute towards. Shared with other districts, and I'll pull that up quick. I'll pull the wrong one up. There we go. So if you look, we're over here and it's really only gone up from 30,624 to 31,190. They have various software subscriptions that we take part in and various things through the tech consortium that we take part in. So that's what that budget's for. It's a small increase in that. The other budget is their core program of services. And that went up 2.2%. That's their administrative group, their Act 93 employees, their executive director, their CFO, their HR department. That is not something we pay directly for, but we do pay through our service fees that we pay when we have students and over there for their services. So that went up 2.2%. Again, not large increases. Their general services we pay for when we send service or requests there for services. So if we send a learner there, then we're paying a fee for based on the services they receive. So that is not part of this budget right here. This is only the core program, which is their administrative piece, and the instructional media services. So are there any questions on that?
So I just want to make sure I'm like, Act 93 employees went up by 20 and then overall personnel was 33,686. Do we know what the numbers are? How many between each?
It looks like the administrator contracting, it said increased by 0.12 FTE and a net decrease of 0.2 FTE in the assistant positions down there. Is that what you were?
No, I'm just looking overall, like within the Act 93 employees, do we know how many are there total? And then how many are going to be other personnel?
I don't know that offhand. I don't know that offhand. No.
There's only 2 people listed there. But
We can. The instructional media services, it may be in here. I can get that information to you.
Okay, that's fine.
It doesn't look like they increased it at all. So it looks like here it's a 5.69 FTE staff, 2 in the leadership team, 0.91 senior leaders, 0.61 middle management, and 2.12 non-instructional support. What's in here, and then there's curriculum instructional services there. So it's all in here. Any other questions on this? And this is a fairly small part of what they do. Most of their revenue is gained through the services they provide member districts.
Are there free services that we partake in when we utilize them, or is because we're like, as we use their services, is there anything that we're getting other than what we pay for? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they'll do some consultation, they'll do some in-person training for us that's not all charged out or at a discount because we're part of their consortium. I don't know if you want anything else.
They change the structure over how they do safety over time, but at times there's a core element of the safety that's given to us. And then if you need extra layers, it's built on top. They've always been really great about working with me in terms of like one-offs like that unless it gets to the point where it's truly an extra service. You know, they're like looking at our all hazards plan, for example, to get a review, and it's not technically in the language, but they do it for us.
The speaker that I mentioned a couple updates ago that we went to see was someone they brought in and we didn't have to pay, that we could take whomever we could get, any administrator or anything. So there are some of those things that come across that we don't pay.
So one more thing, we had talked about this briefly, but is there a way you can show us the data of the cost of like our students
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have that. I don't want you to do something extra, but I'm curious to see how we're utilizing their services.
Yeah, I can provide a list of, how many FTEs or how many full-time students we have, at each level of service that they're providing, obviously with no names
No,
involved.
yeah, yeah.
But I can
I'm just
provide
curious about the numbers.
the number of, learners that we have placed there for services. Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
would be awesome. Thank you.
Great. Moving on to our budget. Alex.
I did provide a copy for each board member at your desk there. So it would be a little bit easier to read. But going in, if you remember last month, we did revenues and took a deep dive into that. This month, we're gonna look at, some major expense items and kind of where we're at, starting from last month. I showed you where we were at year to date. And again, I will show you that, what we've got here is, if you look at this is where we're at year to date compared to last year to date. I always like to show this as we get in closer to the end of the year. And you can see at this point in time, last year, we had 50.65% of our ending balance expenses expended. And now this year, at the same point in time, we're at 53%. And so right now, last year at this time, we were at 37,663. And this year, same time period, we're at 35,764,735. This is a projection of our year end, and it's based on data through February 29th. And so right now, our forecast, I have it in the blue box down there. It's basically a break-even budget at this point. Now that could change when the March 31 numbers load. But at this point, based on calculations from the page prior and working in some tweaks, we're looking like we're going to finish close to zero or a little bit above. Now, some of these numbers like benefits could come in a little bit better than we have projected here, but this is based on our current kind of trend that we're projecting, and this is kind of the trend for the year end. So this will change every month I show it. So when I put the March 31 numbers in, the trends will change, and that could improve or not improve. We hope it improves. This is the fund balance overview. We show this every budget presentation. The numbers are updated right here for the projected year end. And then over in the forecasted for 24-25, we'll show the detail on the next slide. But at this point, we have a budget deficit of a little over $1 million without all the detail in at this point. But that's where we're currently forecasting for 24-25 at a 3.5% tax increase. And then this is the budget history. We go back a couple of years and forward. These are the projections. You can see 23-24 has the 150,424 projected surplus. 24-25, if you look at the detail there, we're forecasting $68,710,361 of revenue, and expenditures is $69,774,726 for a budgeted deficit of a little over $1 million, $1,064,367. If we do have a budget deficit, we would pull from our fund balance to cover that deficit. Then moving out 25-26, 26-27, 27-28, 28-29, you can see where the numbers come in. And then up above here in the top, that's the actual tax increase number that I currently use for that projection. And this is something we'll dive in a little bit deeper when we get into the April and the May presentation. I can take this model and change those numbers a little bit based on the board's wishes and kind of see where we would project out. Again, as I always say, when we do these projections, this isn't a perfect science. This is based on assumptions and increases in healthcare and other benefits. And I do factor in PESER's rate increases that are projected and other projections that we get from the state that are fairly accurate. But healthcare and other costs, utilities, those types of things, I'm kind of putting in, anywhere from a 3 to 5% increase per year in there. And that's factoring out. As we get better information on that, or we get into a contract and I can lock those numbers, then we dial them down a little bit closer.
Right. Are they looking at a PESER's increase again this year, potentially?
No, PESER's is actually at 33.9. It's down slightly. It was 34% last year. Of course, we get about half of that back, 33.9, but they did warn that it's going back up. So they expected the projection for 25-26 is 34.57.
Even with their equity gains that they've made?
That's what their current projection is now. That could change, but currently we probably won't get another projection until they release the actual 25-26 official rate. And then usually what they do is they update their projections moving forward. So, but at this point, it's locked at 33.9 for 24-25.
Okay.
And projected at 34.57. So moving back up, and then it goes back up, I think, for 2 years and then settles back down again. Any other questions on these forecasts?
Anything on the local tax revenue? Two apartment complex there?
Other than they did not hit our tax rolls yet. I'm not sure what that hit's gonna be. I did factor in some assessed value growth as a result of those units going in.
Okay.
Again, not an exact science, kind of a gut feel based on talking to some of the managers from Penn Township and Raffo and Manheim Borough. So it's kind of a gut feel on what their development looks like, and then try to factor in a number. It's not a real scientific number. It's not a wag either, but it's an educated guess.
2 weeks, the 2 weeks in a row, it came to like over 11 million sales. That hit the paper as a sale.
We do not have updated numbers in this, so the numbers that are here for assessed value are based on the numbers I had last month. So I expect to get another number from the county where we're at in another week or so here, so. But this is based on the latest and the greatest that we have.
Thank you.
And I just want to sit, this is the same slide I showed last month, and I just want to sit here a little bit. For those that did attend the breakfast with Senator Almond, didn't sound like there was much hope for the windfall that we were hoping to get down there in the 581, 409. I don't think we're going to see that. So this budget includes the 237, 732 up here, which is based on 200 million of state funding for basic ed. I think that's kind of a safe place to be. If we do get another 500,000, fantastic, that would be awesome. Here's the rub though. They pretty much all but promised this would not be completed by the time we have to have our budget completed. Our budget's statutorily required to be completed by June 30th. And so is the state governments, but they can make an exception for themselves. We cannot make an exception. So you will more than likely have to make a tax decision on the budget moving into next year without knowing whether we're going to get an additional 500,000 or whether we're going to get 100,000 additional from the state. So that makes it a little challenging. Unfortunately, we don't have the same leeway, and we have to go based on what we know at the time. I can tell you right now, Senator Almond indicated the basic ed funding commission that was formed. They approved a minority report, which these numbers are based on. That vote went down party lines. And so the majority report was put forth by the Democrats and the minority report was put forth by the Republicans, they're still kind of sticking to their guns. So they're pretty far apart, I think, at this point on this funding number. So I say that to just let you know that we might be shooting in the dark when we get to June and not knowing what we're going to get from the state. And it could be significant.
And I don't know, I've gone to this breakfast for quite a few years. And we've gotten the same answer most of those years. And this year, Senator Ahmet did not answer any question that was asked of him. Am I not right? He circled the wagon, but never answered the question.
Brian, what happens if we don't pass the budget? Is there a penalty? How do they hold the?
I don't know.
They put the treasurer in jail.
I think it's the board president, actually, but no. I don't know. To my knowledge, no district has tested that. I guess we wouldn't get any of our funding, probably. So of the 9 million that we currently get from the state, I'm guessing they would freeze that and we would get any funds at all from the state, including our transportation reimbursements and our Social Security and PSERS reimbursements.
So you may want to tell the rest of the group what Alma mentioned about a 2-year budget, state perspective. How that would change things.
He did. He talked about a 2-year budget, and that would make planning for us a lot nicer because we would have at least in the interim year, let's put it that way. My guess is if they'd probably take it to the second year and it would take them 2 years to approve a 2-year budget. But on the interim year, it would be a lot easier. But I have heard the 2-year budget floated for some time, and I think while it would be beneficial for those on the eastern part of the state, on the western part of the state, they probably would not feel the same way. Any other questions about the state budget? Obviously, that's a big number. I mean, if they were to even put double what I budgeted in there, that's a big number, and it's a number that we would need to consider moving forward when we make our tax decision.
Ryan?
Yes.
Didn't this happen last year?
It happens every year.
That's what I thought, because I've been on the board for 3 budget cycles now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It's
But
the same stuff, yeah.
so if that happened last year, when the budget recently finally went through, right, from last year? Is that what I remember? Like,
Yeah.
okay, how close were we with what you projected?
I was actually over budgeted a little bit, so I was maybe a little too aggressive on revenue. So we're actually getting less than what we had budgeted on basic ed. I thought what we had at the time was a safe number, but we're getting a little bit less than that. And it's hard to predict because the formula is based on things like our poverty rate and our average household income and those types of things. And if those things move a little bit, it impacts the proration of what we get versus the rest of the state. So if our median household income moves at a different rate than what the state average does, it'll affect how much we get on the formula. So thought we were safe last year budgeting what we did. We're probably about 60,000 high on the budget. We'll get a little bit less than that. So we'll make it up in some other areas of revenue. On local revenue, we'll get a little bit more than what was budgeted, but on the state, I maybe got maybe too positive about the message they were sending. Usually I'm very conservative on the other side of that, but seemed like a sure thing last year. So this is salaries, and this is later you're going to hear a presentation from Paul Miller regarding our staffing plan. The the things that she'll present are already baked into this budget right here. So the numbers you see include the recommendations that she'll present. And so you can see, I have the projections there, total salaries of 25,381,808 for this year. Again, that's pretty good guess, but it could you know, be off anywhere from 20 to 25,000 based on hourly rates and everything else coming through. But this is going to be pretty close to where we land on that. Benefits down below. Insurances, you'll see moving from 23-24 into 24-25. We're in a situation where the way we do health insurance is we have an internal service fund, and I don't want to get too complex about this because it's really boring accounting stuff, but we have an internal service fund that our general fund pays a premium to, if you will. And so we set a rate based on numbers we get from the actuary at the insurance company. And then we pay premiums to this internal service fund, and then the internal service fund pays all the claims and the premiums out of what's called our Fund 60. Well, our Fund 60 has been getting hit, meaning our claims are running a little bit higher than what we're actually funding Fund 60. And so that's developing an amount that Fund 60 actually owes our general fund. And so to make up for that, we have to increase our health premiums that the general fund is paying the internal service fund to make up for that gap of claims that are hitting the internal service fund. So that's why you see the insurance is going from 5.3 million to 5.95 year over year. That's where that difference is. I think, is it about 400,000 right now, Amy, that we're overspent in the internal service fund. So we have to right that ship. It could easily, self-insurance is kind of a law of averages. You could have good claims years, you could have bad claims years. We've had 2 tough claims years in a row. Normally that pops back and kind of rights the ship without. So after the 1 year, we didn't really raise the budget too much. We raised it a little bit in the general fund, but we had a second tough claims year. So we're monitoring that. We meet with the insurance company regularly. I know we've done things with wellness and prescriptions to try to save some claims in the future, but it's a little too early to tell right now, or it's a little too early for those things to have an impact. So we have realized savings by carving out our prescription plan. So I didn't meet with the prescription group, but Amy and I think Nicole did. Met with them, and so that's working well for us. We're getting rebates back on our prescription plan. But that continues to be a real high concern moving in. Is that trend going to continue with the high claims or not? If it does, it could have a significant budget impact. So we just have to watch that. Pension going up just based on the increase in salaries. And you can see there, change from prior year going back to 18-19, you can see the change in total salaries that we had. 2021 and into 21-22, those were COVID years coming through. And then 22-23 into 23-24 was kind of the full brunt of our support staff increase. If you recall, we did that. And so that price tag kind of hit in full in 22-23 and 23. And then we're proposing a 1.16 increase year over year in 24-25, or a 4.57% increase. Our contracted labor increase is 3.75 for the professional group. Any questions on the salaries budgeted at this point? And again, this is based on our projection now. As people come and go over the next couple months. If somebody leaves and goes, there might be some movement in the total base wages we're proposing based on ins and outs. So each month, we'll tweak that for, as people say, hey, we're moving on, or we hire somebody, then I'll add them into the base budget and we'll update them. So I kind of brought this up, and this was a slide from last month as well. And I put down here that a 1% millage increase is approximately 381,543. And if you look at the percent increase down here at 3.5, that would yield additional revenue of 1.456 million in local real estate taxes. And if you kind of just look at just a contractual increase up here of 650, but if you look at the increase of 1.16 and then $1 million projected in benefits, you can see that 2.16 million is what the increase is before we get to any other budget categories. That's just the increase in our salaries and benefits. And then 3.5 yields 1.456 million. So I just wanted to point that out. That number's shy of what the increase is alone in salaries and benefits. Then just moving on, just kind of a refresher here on our debt service. From 1920, we went from the 5.8 as we finished the Barron Elementary and added the high school project. Our level debt jumped up to about 8.48, 8.5 million, and we'll stay there through 33, 34. We use a level debt financing, and what level debt means is we set up the principal and the interest payments so that they're mostly as flat as possible. They go up for the projects you do, but they're mostly level. In April, we'll have Lauren and Ken from our bond advisors. They'll be out here to explain some opportunities for refinancing. One of the issues, which could net us anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 savings one time, not every year, not annually. So if you look here, the blue was the middle school project, and then here the Doe Run Elementary project kicked in. The gray is Barron Elementary, and then you can see the impact the high school project had on our debt service. And so I point that out because we wrap each issue we wrap around. If I were to actually present you each individual issue, you would see about 10 different colors on there, but it would all level out at the top. And so it's called wrapping your debt, and that levels it out so that we have budget over a period of time. So I'd like to point that out. So the good part is the bad part is we had to climb from about $6 million up to $8.5 million in a couple of years. The good part is, as you can see, it stays stable for the next foreseeable future, 10 to 12 years. It stays stable at around 8.49. And so there will be increases year over year in the amount we have to service our debt. So I just wanted to point that out, that this isn't something that's going to increase year over year in a larger amount. We know what that's going to be for the foreseeable future of that debt service. So any questions on the debt service models?
I just wanted to make a plug here. This is a good news story, in my opinion, because you enjoy all these assets at financing that's very low compared to where the rates are today. So I don't know if you have the delta of the aggregated.
Yeah, I mean, we're somewhere around, 2.5 to 2 3/4 on the yields on these. I do have a list of yields that I'm happy to show on the next slide or in the next presentation. I don't have that included here, but we're around 5 1/4, Amy, on our interest that it's earning.
Yeah.
So we're earning 5 1/4 on some of these funds for the high school project, and we issued at a yield around 2.5, 2.75. So we're doing pretty good now. we're staying under the amount you're statutorily allowed to earn on bond financing for tax-free. So when you issue tax-free debt, you can't invest with it. So you can't borrow a bunch of money and then turn around and try to make a quick, you can't borrow 2.5 and then make 5.25. It's not an investment tool. You must spend the money within 3 years, and you can't earn too much interest. If you do, you have to return the interest to the government on that, since it is a tax-free vehicle. But we're not there yet, and we're enjoying some additional earnings, which makes it nice. Again, this is the impact. I like to show this every time. This is the impact on the median homestead value. And again, market value and assessed value are two different things. I always like to point out, because you look at that and say, there's no way there's a $200,000 house out there. But that's the assessed value with the county. So the median homestead assessment, and we don't have the new one yet, but this is last year's 198.2. So there you can see the tax rate at different rates, what that impact would be. So a 3.5% increase would be an annual amount of approximately $111 for the median homestead value. Next steps, we'll continue working with administrators on their budgets. I've met with all the principals and some of the directors. Still have some key budgets to do. The facilities, we met with John a little bit on tech. That's almost all done. So a lot of the numbers are coming in. We'll fine tune the 23-24 year-end projections. I like to build budgets off of actual numbers, not last year's budget, because that's how you can get into trouble budgeting off of budgets. We'll monitor those state budget talks, see which direction they're going. If they're going in a positive direction, maybe we can upgrade the amount we'll get. If by some miracle they approve it, by the end of May, we might be able to get the actual figure in there, but I don't see that happening. We'll finalize the projected labor budget and staffing changes again as additions and deletions from our staff happen, and the board makes decisions based on our staffing plans. We'll update that. And then finally, we'll work with our administration on cost reduction and cost containment measures. So one of the things we're doing is we're going in with the rising cost of everything. As we have to do in our own households, we have to be diligent about what we spend money on. We're committed to working with our administration to do the same due diligence and what we can do to deliver the same quality education model with a more reasonable and efficient financial input. Any questions on the presentation? Okay. Same time, same place next month. See you.
Brian, especially I, am always when we're back about it, which as you well know, I'm just joking, but I honestly do want to thank you. And I'll tell you, I don't think there's a chief financial officer or any word, like the county, maybe the state, that does a better job than you do. Much as we hate these 45 slide, you do an outstanding job, and I want to.
I appreciate that. Some of my colleagues in other districts might beg to differ, but I'll accept it.
Thank you. Then my next thing is the distribution of the policies for the first read. And that concludes my report, Mr. Claire.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Flannery.
There's two main elements to my report. Tonight I'm going to explain them both because then I'm passing them to. So the first thing we'll talk about is the paid time off usage. This was the first year, as you know, in our CBA that we went to a paid time off model for professional staff. And as part of the agreement, it says that after the first year and every year thereafter we meet, kind of talk about like what's working, what might not be working, so it's a big change. So we've gone through that with the association and our admin team. We'll present the results of that analysis, and then the second presentation will be staffing. So at the previous meeting in February, Ms. Miller provided a brief overview about the staffing recommendations. And tonight she's going to take a deeper dive into what the proposed changes to staffing can do. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Miller.
Hello, everyone. So as Dr. Flannery said, we had a new benefit with the new CBA in regards to PTO. With discussions with the association, is plus for the staff. And then we just wanted to understand if it was also cost effective for us as well. So just looking back over last year in regards to, when people had a regular personal day balance and sick day balances, compared to this year where we had PTO, the total absences that required substitutes was actually less than last year. So last year there was about 1,062 days requiring a substitute. This year there was about 1,023 days. So it's pretty comparable. Looking at the usage, we're using it adequately, responsibly. So that's a good point as well. So just getting feedback from the meeting. People did enjoy the benefit in that they could use their days more flexibly. So if you're in private industry, PTO is pretty standard, whereas in school, not so much. So we're kind of a head runner in that area. And overall, one of the constituents was that it's kind of putting their days scheduled ahead of time. So basically, there's less last minute requests out unless people are sick, obviously. But it's been great as far as getting people to schedule their days off ahead of time. And with that, there's like a limit that we had in the CBA. So we've only hit the limit 9 days of the year, which is pretty good. So just keeping up with that, and it's a yearly thing we're going to just touch base on. Questions?
So they had no negative feedback.
It was a little bumpy at the beginning, just getting off the ground because our system isn't really made for PTO. So just getting everyone into the flow of how it works and just addressing those questions was kind of like the big how-to. But basically from there, it's been working out for people. All right, moving on to staffing. All of you should have a handout as well. If you want to follow along. Staffing presentation. So my name is Nicole Miller. I'm the Director of Human Resources for Mannheim. Following is our recommendations of staffing going into the 24-25 school year. I gave a small preview in February, which Dr. Flannery talked about. There have been some changes, but we'll use this time to share further details and answer any questions that you might have. I want to first off extend an immense thank you to all of our district administrators who helped work on this plan, being cognizant of, as Brian just presented, and adjusting their staff to best meet student needs. While also finding creative ways to maintain staffing levels with minimal, if any, additions. Oh, wait, I do have a clicker,
You
don't
have the clicker, yeah.
It's working.
There you go.
All right, so this page is just a synopsis of what we're going to tackle today. It looks like a lot of chunks. On the left are several budget factors to consider, including number one, we're in our second year, 0 professional staff retirements. We do have one, which was Tracy Basic, our director, but we're replacing that 1 for 1. There are also some recent resignations. Of course, we're going to be replacing those 1-to-1 as well. Number 2 is our ESSER funding is coming to a close in 2024. So as Brian had talked previously, that funding had been used to offset some staffing costs. So that was weighed during our approach as well when figuring out what positions should be added. On the right is that brief synopsis of the staffing recommendations, and we'll be diving into those each one separately hereafter. Essentially, we're looking to reconstruct several positions, one being moving a current part-time nurse assistant to full-time at Durham. The other would be restoring our supervisor of accounting services to a director position. And finally, just highlighting a potential flip-flop at Durham, where we'd be switching a full-time instructional assistant to part-time and a part-time reading assistant to full-time to cover the reading needs at the school. As discussed in the past, as well with the completion of the high school comes the need for more custodial staff to keep it in shape. In this case, we're recommending 2 new full-time custodians. Also, we've been made aware of the need for a grade point assistant as an extracurricular component for our facilities and team usage. Finally, some further future considerations, as always, include kindergarten enrollment numbers and increases in ESL, special ed, autistic support numbers, as well.
Weight room assistant, are they gonna be, is this position gonna be so they're available for other sports during practices and stuff? Somebody's in there.
The weight room coordinator is a coach himself.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
So to be in there for the other sports, to have somebody in there.
Right, so
Okay.
say another sport, you know, even if their coach is in a video.
Exactly, I got you.
All right, here's just a little breakdown of some data. So the first one here is the nurse assistant moving to full-time. Essentially, from the pandemic, since then, our numbers have significantly increased in injuries and illnesses. So if I can just look here quickly at the numbers, we're seeing like significant increases in illnesses, calls, time spent talking to parents, and personal medications. So that's just like dispenses to students. This is really just in the September to January timeframe. So not even a full school year. The current person that's on staff is working 3 days a week, like a 0.4 addition. He'd be coming in an additional 2 days a week, you know, going to full-time status, helping us fill those gaps. This also helps us increase our flexibility when it comes to sub coverage, so they can be utilized elsewhere. So that would be a benefit as well. To provide context to the next recommendation, the supervisor of accounting services position was originally a director level, previously titled as the assistant business manager. After some staffing changes, we did have an internal, less experienced candidate come into the position, and the role was reduced. So that's why it became a supervisor position. Since then, and for the past year or so, that individual has been taking on more and more director duties, and performing them expertly and efficiently. Returning the position to a director would be most appropriate considering the amount of work she is doing now. So that would just be an increase in compensation. The third one listed here is really a recommendation for a flip-flop. So that would be a full-time instructional assistant retiring, recommending status be transferred to a part-time reading assistant, and then hiring for a part-time instructional assistant. If you get down to additional positions with the completion of the high school, comes into the student service area. We keep cleans, and explores, buildings, living floors, etc. We're also thinking of hosting more events, more presentations for the custodians. Something has been discussed since the beginning of the high school project. Hopefully, you have note of fulfilling industry standards, and in order to meet a level of quote unquote ordinary tidiness, we are recommending the hiring of 2 more additional full-time custodians. With the weight room assistant, we're recommending for really 2 reasons, to allow our students access to our state-of-the-art facilities when the main coordinator is not available, and to add a layer of safety instruction when students are using the room, if only a coach is able to supervise. So, you see in the data, there's increased interest in teaching across different sport teams, girls and boys. To allow them more time in our weight room would be beneficial to the students and their schedules. Future considerations to keep in mind, kindergarten numbers remain fairly low, but we've seen data where it bounces back, and you know, we never know until the late summer comes around. So if need be, we would be looking to reshuffle staff. If the numbers would grow exponentially, we'd be considering an addition of staff, but we really wouldn't know until later in the summer. ESL and special education numbers continue to increase, as well as the severity of those students' needs. We're getting more and more ESL kids that are coming in with zero English capabilities. So we're keeping a tight eye on those individuals as well, and figuring out a plan, reshuffle or staff.
Back to that previous slide, can you tell me a little bit more about the special note?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I completely.
No, that's okay. I was just curious what you mean when you say we're actively seeking ways to find coverage.
So our autistic support individual.
Oh, okay.
Slide here as well. Basically, we're seeing that our one autistic support teacher is pretty much at capacity. So we just want to prep you guys and seeing that, like, if need be, if we are currently in compliance with PDE, but we are like trying to find creative ways to meet the.
Like barely in compliance or?
No, like we're in compliance.
I mean, like, are we close to getting to where we need?
We're close where we need additional staff. So that's kind of coming up here. If it continues the way that it is, we additional staff, whether it be a halftime position or.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
All right, just kindergarten numbers, preemptively pre-registrations at 23 at Barron, 60 at DeRun. Those numbers have been low before. So until we finalize registration, we really don't know what's going to be happening with the kindergarten class. We will continue on as is.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Of course.
What is our goal for class size for kindergarten? Amy, I don't know who knows that, but what's like, where do we?
We don't have anything that's like structurally limiting us to that. Like some districts have like a 25 cap or something like that. We don't have anything like that formally. We generally try to keep things in that 22 range, 23 as the highest piece. Traditionally, in the last couple of years, our class sizes have been lower than that.
I was curious if there's a certain number that we're looking at where we say, like, DeRun has 4 kindergarten teachers, right? Okay. And 4 for Barron. So those numbers look awesome right now.
Right, they look really low right now, but what we've seen in the past maybe 3 years is that it used to be that, I don't know, let's just make up a number and say 80% of people used to be kind of registered by now. We've seen a change in that theoretical number to drop to say like, we're getting more come in over the summer, or even like, oops, the school bus went by. What do we need to do to register? So what we try to do in August is work as a team to be like, where are we right now as compared to this time of year?
Okay.
And then we know, like, if we're 1 or 2 away at that point from being over, we're coming to the board and saying, hey, look, we need to be aware. If we're in more comfortable zone, then we kind of have an internal plan to be able to figure out how to support that. So.
Got it.
That's happened almost every year.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not gonna have, we're okay. School starts tomorrow. Whoops. Parents come in saying, I forgot to register my child.
Or they just moved or
Or
something.
they just moved and all that. And sometimes I've seen it go up where we need.
Yeah, this
a
is
whole
sort of
classroom.
like our educational audible. So every year we just say, this is one number we can't predict. We just let you know that we always look at it. To this date, we haven't had to go over that, but we always like to say that this is part of what we look at this time of year. Hard to predict.
Oh, it says number of teachers right there. Sorry. Oh, man. I'm a huge proponent for small class sizes. So if we're getting to that point, we would like to know how close we are, because it just makes such a big difference when there's lower class sizes with those age groups.
Yeah, and if you recall, that we did that last year.
Yeah.
We came to you, and over the summer, you allow us to make those decisions without having board action till later. And that's what we would do again. We would let everyone know if it gets to that point.
Looks like we're in a good spot then.
Yeah, we're in a favor for sure.
All right, short and sweet. We'll get to the financial impact. So that's really small, but if you can see it in your packets, there is some attritional savings with the retirement and administration, about $15,000 worth. So thinking about changing that supervisor to a director position, it almost cancels it out, not cancels it out, but it diminishes it, the impact as well. And then overall, if we're looking at adding those 2.4 positions, we're looking at an ask of just shy of 150,000 for our new staff. Can come back to this. We can dwell on this a little bit if you have some.
No, I'm making an assumption, other than the custodians, we probably have the other two. Somebody, the dough run, the nurse would just move to full-time, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, they're on there.
Yeah, and then we probably already have somebody in the lots for the weight room person, assuming right now.
It's possible.
Yeah. So we'd really just be posting for public custodians.
Actually, all, except for these.
Okay.
Any questions? Also, you had inquired about adding on an additional security officer to cover our Barron Elementary. We have one security officer. If we total that out, that's an $83,000 position. Overall, included with our budget, it would bring us to $228,462.50. Also, like I said before, we do need to be aware of the autistic workload, meeting those needs. Right now, our current model is seeing what the teacher that we talked to, the 15.5-hour deficit per week. That doesn't necessarily mean she's not meeting the kids' needs. It just means like there is an awareness that she's not hitting the marks that she wants to hit with the kids. So that just means substituting in services like group work rather than individualized work with the kiddos to meet them, but not necessarily maybe individualizedly. So we'd be looking to, if it gets any more drastic, adding on perhaps a 0.5 position or a 1 FTE position. And I have those costs down broken for you as well. So including that into the ask, that brings it to 204,000 to 248,000. That's not including the security officer. If we would include the security officer, that total complete ask would be about 300,000. All right, so in closing, I want to thank the board for their consideration and to the administration team for being flexible, seeing as this is a team for the year. And contributes favorably to the district and to our staff, and I hope to address any questions and concerns that you might have.
Is that 333 already in budget?
The security officer and the autistic support or the autistic teacher are not currently in those numbers. Everything else on the fiscal impact sheet was already baked into the numbers.
Discussion. If the approval would be, so the question was, do we have to vote to, you're not voting to approve anything tonight. Ultimately, if you approve the budget with these numbers in it, that's when you're approving these positions. So now's the time, if you have questions about the security officer or anything else that Ms. Miller just shared, this is a good time to talk about what we can look at there. Like if you're looking at the security position, the reason we framed it like this, because we know that that's something the board is interested in, but do we want to go for it now, or do we want to wait and see if a bigger safety grant comes along next school year, understanding that we can do it that way, as has been done in the past or in other districts. So this is the time now to like look at those types of things and determine, give us a little more direction. Do we just put it in the budget and go for it that way? Do we wait and see what we come up with our leadership team for some cost cutting? That's where we need a little guidance from all of you with some of those particular positions.
Me, I guess I'd say for the security role, I definitely would be in favor for that, but obviously it's really comes down to the right person. So even if we put it out, but don't find the right person, I'd rather not hire. Wait to find the right person.
I agree with you, Matt, 100%. And I think the three we have need to be, make sure they're on the interview or whatever. Because I tell you, I think we got three good ones.
I'm sure we can find another good one.
Yeah.
How do we do the coverage today? Are the three circulating?
So the easiest way to describe it's not the easiest way to picture what's actually happening. Each of them are about in one of the buildings 75% of the time. But the way that looks is that Officer Yarnell's primary location is the high school for 75% of his day. So that's his main chunk. And then 25% of his time is at Barron. He checks in there still. Whereas Officer Webb, 25% of his time or more is at the middle school. And then that other 25% is rotated to cover some of the elementary when needed. And then Officer Lucky, his time is 50-50. But then the other 50 is balanced out by the other two individuals that are covering the other buildings. So they each have a primary location, but right now the elementaries would have less time covered than middle school and high school. That being said, our incidents where we rely upon them is secondary heavy. There's the level of need at middle school and high school in terms of daily incidences that occurs is obviously different than it is at the elementary level.
Do we have data that would show, like, are those needs being met?
So when we talked about this maybe a month or two ago, I had said my personal recommendation would be just to wait a period of time if we could to kind of continue to gather that data. Because Officer Lucky really didn't even start until October, later October. So until he's in there and we're kind of readjusting, we have November and December, which are odd months school calendar wise. Then we have January and February, but here we are in March, so for me, I'd want to see a little bit more of the data till I could say to you, hey, here's what we're needing, here's what we're not. Right now, all I would have to say is if the board's goal is to have one person in every building, we're not there, clearly.
I was actually thinking more of not just maybe that, but a fourth if we found the right person to be able to have the capabilities of the extra school activities. So the sports games at, whatever other options of things that are going on that would feel like somebody should be there. Having another person would make that scheduling easier.
And I would just say, if I would use a specific example, I think Mr. Pyle's still here. So he was out one morning on a visit, and the way Amy and the team communicated is tremendous. So he just made sure that Officer Lucky was there. Then Officer Webb made sure that he was at the middle school endo run. And so it almost feels like someone's in all the buildings most of the time, a high percentage of the time because of how they're communicating, coordinating. The other thing is their attendance is tremendous. They're almost never out. So again, speaking to the type of person we've been getting in these roles, that's been really good. So that would be where I would say we're at right now, but I agree with Amy. It's hard to tell right now if we're not meeting needs. I would think that the administrative team would feel that we are, but again, we don't have a body in every building. So direction as far as that one, should we move forward putting that in the budget so you can see what that looks like in the end? Or do we want to wait until the fall or another time?
Me, I'd include it.
Okay.
You got
Sorry.
it?
What'd you say?
I would include it, because we can always remove it whenever.
I think we should have options if it's not too much work, Brian.
No, not at all.
Just have the different scenarios scripted out. Backs.
Because if something happens, it'll always happen at the school where no one's at.
Yeah,
At the time when no one's there.
and I'll say that it's amazing how fast they're getting from one.
Sure.
I remember one incident that happened at Barron, and the person handling it was waiting for help and turned around and there was Yarnell. How he got down there so fast, but Still,
I would agree for a normal incident, we have plenty of people. But if you think about the worst case scenario, obviously the more.
When we can put it in and give some options, and also with the understanding that if a big safety grant comes next year, we just make sure if you're allowed to commit it to a physical person, that we just say, we're not doing lights, we're not doing alarms, we're not doing cameras, we're doing toward the physical person. So we can do options.
what, with all the options in here, are there any items in here that anybody has a problem with and absolutely don't want them to look into? I mean, I'd hate to see it work and go to all that work of doing it and then come in and say, well, we're against it or we don't want to do it. I don't see anything in here that is out of the ordinary that we shouldn't be able to go with, but.
No, and I also don't think that like we should go low on the autistic help either. If it's needed, it's needed.
Anybody else have any questions about?
Yeah, I do. With the ESSER funding ending, what is currently being funded by that? And do we have a picture? Like, how are we including that in the budget? What are we currently using it for now? Because I remember discussions like, we'll hire this person using ESSER funds. So where does that come into play?
Well, we really didn't. So we used the ESSER funds for a lot of existing positions. So positions that existed prior to COVID and the ESSER fund. So we paid for a dean of students with some of it. We covered the multi-age teachers with that, but obviously those teachers are remaining with us. We paid for salaries for after school and summer programs. We offset our coordinators of online learning with ESSER funds. So a lot of the funds were used to offset existing expenditures. So in some of those ways, we indirectly used some of the money on some of the other positions, but most of the positions existed prior. And we just took advantage of the revenue source temporarily.
So now we see it in the salaries maybe, but not the revenue?
Salary increase.
Now you're seeing the salaries. They were always in the salary numbers,
Right.
but we had revenue offsetting it on the federal. So what you're seeing is a reduced federal revenue that would have gone towards that. And so for this year, it was $750,000. That mostly paid for our multi-age educators at the elementary level. But a dean of students, coordinator of online learning, am I missing anything? Amy? I did say multi-age, yeah.
What, I'm sorry, but what did you say is left in the ESSER fund?
It will be gone at the end of this year. There's our ESSER, which is ESSER 3. And I'm not counting, obviously there's some of the learning loss and some small ones that are maybe 35,000 here and there and 60,000, but the large, we had ESSER 1, which was about 350,000, which we spent very quickly on cleaning supplies and those types of things during COVID. And then we had ESSER 2 was 2.4. Amy, help me. ESSER 2 was $2.4 million. Is that right? And ESSER 3 is 3 million. Thank you. 3,075,000. So we have 750,000 remaining of ESSER 3.
So we have some.
That will be exhausted going into next 24-25 budget. There will be no ESSER fund budgeted in that year.
Is that 750,000 in the budget yet? Have you counted that income?
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, that's in the
budget.
projections. That's in the projections. So a lot of what districts did was they used it on items that were clearly, so there was a lot of discussion when ESSER first came out. There was a lot of, I even say misinformation about what you could use it for. And so people started committing it to things and then they'd say, well, oh, wait a minute, we were just kidding. You can't use it for that. So what we did was we offset what we knew we could use it for. That way it freed up revenue for other items we could get, like, we also paid for, iPads, our normal iPad, lease. We did, 2 lease payments, totaling about, $680,000, I guess, right, John? For ESSER, and we did a lot of other tech upgrades that would have normally hit our general fund budget, but we were able to offset, with the ESSER funds. But as far as brand new programs, we started very few brand new programs with ESSER funds, which is kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of nice that we don't have things to fund without a revenue source, but it's not nice in the fact that we enjoyed for the last 2 to 3 years, we enjoyed some of our budget being offset by these ESSER funds. And now we have to pick that back up locally or with state funds.
Anybody else have any questions or anything on the staffing? We can, looking at everybody, everything's okay. I think they can have a yes to go ahead and project all this and.
We'll put the,
Okay.
we'll put some options for security and we'll put the 0.5 AS in there. So you can see what that looks like if we need it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Creighton, treasurer, please.
So a lot of reports were prepared for this month and wanted to ask if there were any questions for board members. Talk through.
The only questions I have is they don't have the lines under it anymore. So you have to use a ruler to go down to make sure you're checking it.
I feel like.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can add a line.
I have to use the ruler with the line, doesn't it?
I can use that. That's.
Okay, so with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve section A, B, C, D.
Second.
All the documents that we have for this month. So it's been
We
approved.
have a first and a second. Anybody have any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. At the end of your, we're done.
That is.
All right, we have, we're gonna go right into, committee. Mr. Linder, the business ops.
We have not had a meeting since our last board meeting. Next meeting will be April 8th at 5 o'clock at the high school.
April 8th. 5 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Four.
No. Activities is at 4.
5.
Activities is 4.
So you're gonna start the lobby?
What's that?
We're in the high school.
LGI room in the high school.
Right off the cafeteria. It's the new large group meeting room.
Okay, Mrs. Walker, academic committee.
We have not had a meeting and ours will be April 29th at 4 PM here.
Okay, activities committee, Mr. Sensnick.
Our next meeting will be April 8th, 4 PM in the high school LGI.
April 8th, 4. Okay. We'll go in the, general action items. 12A and B. Have a motion?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. We'll take 12C, the comprehensive plan. Was sent, just wanted, before we make a motion on that, everything okay on that? A motion to approve 12C,
I'll make a motion.
second,
Good.
okay. Questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like to take 12D. E, F, G, H, and I.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Linder.
Second.
Okay, Amy got in it before you. Any questions? All in favor, aye? Opposed? All right, the board representative reports, Lancaster, Lebanon, IU, Miss.
So we had our last meeting on the 13th. I missed that because my youngest was sick. So I started later, but our next meeting is April 10th. And that will be held at the Lebanon building that they have, they were just there. So something else exciting, I wanted to be kind of like Chip and go and meet students so they could get to know me and know that I care about them. And on March 8th, Friday, they were doing a craft for the Spring Bazaar, which took place on the 13th. So I got to see them working on their bird feeders. And they were excited to do that. I don't think Brian has some pictures.
Do you have the pictures?
So Chase, he's one of the students in there. He's working really hard on all these sweet pictures that he was doing. There'll be a video somewhere in here. He wanted to tell me about each picture, so I'm not sure. But I'll just go through the pictures and. So this is Lucas on the right and Gabby. They worked as kind of as team, like they had tables set up with pairs. And they're on the right, some products that are drying.
They're not edible.
No, you probably could eat them if you want. There's some, on the left, Stephanie, in the middle, there's Ryan, and then the right is Leah. And then on the right picture, Alex and Stephanie again and Ryan. And there's Chase, well, Savannah on the left and Chase on the right. He's the one that did all those awesome drawings. And there's Ryan and then Kim Hatfield. So they have three, Kim Hatfield did an awesome job just working with the students. And Veronica Breslin, one of the helpers are on the right picture, Savannah. There on the left is Isidro and Bradley working with Veronica. And on the right there is Sammy, Lucas, Gabby, and Savannah all working together and having fun. They all agreed to have their pictures, so I wasn't just. And then Bradley and Isidro again with Veronica, Leah, and Stephanie. Not close up.
Bird feeder.
This might be Chase with his, oh,
Hang on, I have to pull it up separately.
he's so sweet. He's just so excited to tell me about his beautiful
Yeah.
artwork.
She brought up something. About all the students agreed to have their picture taken.
And I forgot to mention Brandon Mays, he was helping there. He didn't want his picture taken,
Yeah.
so he loves the students as well and really works hard with them.
We got, make sure that when any of the pictures you take are okay.
And we get them approved.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up, Amy.
I knew some of them were shy, so after one picture, they said, that's enough. They didn't, which is fine. It was sweet.
We don't want to show pictures that has a.
Maiden feeding her chickens. Close one. Here we have like Maxine charging at the windmill. Here we have a Dutch trading ship. Here we have a bunch of farmers greeting the ship. Here we have St. George slaying the evil dragon. Here we have a Union force ready to march into battle with the commander. American Civil War. You're like a farmer and a cat and a cat and a bull. And
What happened?
That's okay. He just,
Hang on, we'll get back.
Amy, what building were you at?
That was the high school, in their classes, so I'm gonna try to make it a point. I asked Kim, I sent her an email just to see when I can go see other classes, and sometimes you're volunteering and working, so I wanna see all the different classes and meet with them. They love, a lot of them love the attention. So just, anyway.
We have a bunch of farmers greeting the ship. Here we have St. George slaying the evil dragon. Here we have a Union force ready to march into battle with the commander. American Civil War. You have like a farmer and a cat and a cat and a bull and a cow, like or whatever. Then we have like a mill grinder and on the top of it there's like a farmer and a pig. Thank you.
Brian. So, it's just, yeah, I'm grateful that we have awesome teachers and helpers that love to work with the students, and I'm excited to get to know them better and show them that they're special.
Very good report. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man.
I know the kids would appreciate it. All right, B, Lancaster County CTC report. Mr. Gerhart.
Well, he's beating, when he's getting it up. I was really excited about this one, but I always am. I like them all. But next year they have 60, Behind Central students accepted into the programs now. That's a good number. Yeah, it's gonna be 60 next year for the 24-25.
Chip, how many grades is that? For 3 grades?
Well, mostly 2, but yeah, there is a little bit, yeah. Now, this is a handful of this girl's name. It's Z. Maria Rosada Davila. And she's in baking pastry art program. And she plans, I always ask them what they're doing. She's planning on working in the baking and pastry. She likes that. And I do know for a fact that on the left there, those are cheesecakes.
How many did you eat?
I can't reveal that. Okay, and this is also in the culinary. On the left is Rommel. And if you guys know these people, let me know, okay? Rommel Delkin. Rommel's not sure what he wants to do in his post-secondary plans. He may attend Hack, but he wants to continue working in the culinary field, a restaurant or a kitchen. He likes working both. Then on the right, Savannah, she's in culinary with them. Savannah is being accepted in the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. Do you know that?
That's where I was.
Is that where you went? So she got accepted there and she wants to work either in New York or in Pennsylvania. But they're amazing. They got their plans figured out. And here on the left is, this is a precision machining. That's Trenton Peterman. And Trenton is currently working on a co-op at J&J Machine. He's not sure where he wants to continue in the machining field or he wants to switch to medical. I told you sometimes they go back and forth, but J&J Mechanical, that's in Lidditz. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. That's where he is. And on the right, that's Alvin Martin in the same class of precision mining. Alvin's currently working a co-op at Grable Tool and Die right down in Manheim. Everybody goes by that, right? So that's where he's working. And on the right picture, that's Trenton, the guy on the left up there. He's at J&J Mechanical. That's just a picture of him at work. And this is Kyle James. He's in metal fabrication. He was really fun talking to. I don't know if you can biganize that or not, but that I want to get you right. He did that rose there, with the welding. It's really amazing what he did. What he did, and I had a long talk with him, but he's looking forward to working as a welder for Rohr's Quarry. I'm very familiar with those guys, Rohr's Quarry, and he'll be using his welding skills to fix and maintain the equipment. So that's what he's planning on. And on the left, that's Hunter Abbott. He's in welding, currently working in the co-op at Spades Industrial LLC. Following graduation, he's looking forward to working there full time. And then on the right, that's him there also again at Spades. And Spades is up, go up 283 to the Reams exit. You go in like you're going to E-Town and turn right at the light, and it's actually a really nice looking building there on the left. So that's where he's working on. And that's Sam Whitmer. He was not there, but I did get a picture of him. Somebody sent it to me, of course. But Sam, he's doing, he's working a all these guys love the co-ops, getting out a day, and then after a while they go 2 days. He's working, and I never heard of this place, so I looked it up. It's multi-use attachments, like for your tractor and stuff, like an auger, a snow plow, parts of a mower. And he's working on that, and that's down in Honeybrook. And that's where he's working. These guys love going to work. And that's on the left is Derek Colburn, electromechanical engineer. Derek was recently honored at the Mannheim Lions Club for the CTC Student of the Month. I think that was a couple months ago. And he's looking forward, he's gonna move on to go to Thaddeus Stevens. And on the right is Logan Regg. He's also in that class, electromechanical. Logan is working his co-op at AFP, that's Advanced Food Products. Did you ever hear that one? Did you? That's huge. Well, you probably would. He's working there and he hopes to continue and following there after graduation. And I found out, he told me there's a lot of that class, the electromechanical kids going to there. And so he's really excited. And I haven't been in that building. Have you been in that one, Steve? I haven't either, but this picture that's in the same class, and Ryan, if you remember, we looked at that. What it is, it's a machine. I forget how much it costs, 80,000, 90,000? Yeah. And it's run, it's all computer. And if you see, could you go back one or go one more ahead and then back, then go one more ahead? You see the little boxes on the right there, they have the little package labels on, and then they run it with a computer. So what it's teaching these guys is how to run it, set it up, so that when it runs through the scanners, go back now one page. After it goes through the scanners, it goes down to the chute where it's supposed to go. And they're learning all this, and I think that's the kind of stuff they're doing over at what's that called? Advanced Food Products. I think they're doing a lot of that there. And he was messing with it, and he turned one of the boxes upside down so it didn't see the label. And it brought it up and put it up on top all by itself, so it didn't go to the wrong place. So they knew they had a problem. They call that the skills boss. But it's teaching them. I mean, they had to get on the computer and run, so it must be similar. If whatever they're doing, they're learning part of it. It's not going to be a big change to do something different, but they're hiring a lot of our guys there. Oh, there's the video. How about it? Moves. Yeah. It's kind of cool. He's up there and reads the label and then takes it over. And I thought we didn't have it, Brian.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
Yeah, that's good.
Brian has everything.
The UPS, the post office, they all use these things. So everybody, you guys,
Distribution.
yeah, all the distribution, and
That's
it's,
what, not Walmart, that's
What South Central
Amazon-
PA is.
yeah, it's,
Amazon Prime is.
there one.
Distribution centers.
In
All over, all South Central's distribution centers.
Now, this is of Mount Joy. This is a carpentry. The house on the left is, it should be done this year. And the one on the right, it should be done on the year 25.
They haven't sold yet.
I do not know that.
John Felix, Donnie calls superintendent with that. He bought one of the first houses.
Yeah. If you go to the next page, that's the one on the left that's gonna finish up. That's that one. Go ahead, Brian. And that's inside that one. And the guys from Brownstown and the cabinetry, they were in there putting the cabinets in. So it was kind of cool to see the legs on the table and then the cabinets up above. They were getting that. So you can see they're gonna finish that up this year. Okay, one more here, I think. And that's the new one, just a different angle, but they're all over that stuff. So I think that's it.
I think the first house they built
Yeah.
and sold it's the money now that they put back in the next house.
Yeah.
So just,
I think you're right.
kind of neat.
They have room for 30 more, so they got basically 30 years of houses to build there. Great.
That, is that the end,
Yeah. No, unless you want me going, oh, I did have dinner, I did have lunch there too.
That was the cheesecake. All right, I'm gonna, Lancaster County Academy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Ging, PSBA legislative report.
That's all right. It's very short. As Mr. Howard said, the budget process is continuing. The House and the Senate Appropriations Committees wrapped up their annual budget hearings. And so the next step is for the House and Senate to begin working on a bipartisan budget agreement. I'll hope that that goes well and hope that they meet their June 30th deadline. Also, just a reminder, April 8th is Advocacy Day at the Capitol, which starts at 8:30. It's a good time to engage with local legislators. They'll kind of match you up with your local legislator. So it's just time to discuss things like cyber charter school reform, also public education funding. And so if you're interested in doing that, you can go to my PSBA on the website and register there.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize for that. Trying to get down, I guess. Lancaster County Academy. I don't know if anybody saw the article that was in the newspaper, but everything is going well. We do have the director's off on FMLA leave. But we brought in a retired principal that was available, and so everything on both east and west are going well. And so that probably is ends my report. Anybody that saw that, I didn't want to be confused. All right, let's move on to them. Informational items, the enrollment reports we have. Upcoming school board meeting will be on April 22nd at 6 p.m. right here. Board comments. Anybody have any comments? Concerns? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Great job.